tonight on it, actually, and
That's kind of been their
their
focus
focus
going
going
into
into
this
this
season.
season is, I know there was a committee of people that really wanted them to start calling things, and I thought they did a great job of that, honestly. I thought the refs were great, and yeah, it's a preseason game, so you're probably going to see more
Fouls
fouls
called. I
called.
would
I
expect the
expect the
number to
number to
drop. I
drop. I
don't know
don't
how
know how
many
many
fouls in
fouls in
total
total
were
were
called
called
tonight,
tonight,
and
and
at times it can make the game choppy, but I
I
think
think
overall it's
overall it's
going to
going to
improve the
improve the
product.
product.
Players
Players
aren't
aren't
getting
getting
held, and
held,
it
and
was
it was
both
both
ways. I
ways. I
thought
thought
they
they
did,
did
did, a,
did a
did a
did a
good
good
job
job
both
both
ways.
ways. So, but overall, I feel fine.
You were down, you were rubbing your knee, and then you were limping a little bit. Is it your knee, your ankle? What exactly was bothering you?
I just landed on my kneecap.
She said it. She looked straight into those cameras. No PR spin. No soft pedaling it. No we'll get better fluff. And Caitlin Clark told the entire basketball world that her Indiana fever teammates were, quote, soft defensively. I'm Dre Fiver. This is Street Hoops. And if you think that word is just a preseason throwaway, you do not understand what it means when a franchise player nukes her own locker. Room on live television 9 days before opening night. Buckle up, because what happened at Gainbridge Fieldhouse on April 30th was not just a basketball loss. It was a 5-alarm emergency, a warning flare fired from the one person in that building who does not have the luxury of hiding behind excuses. And we are going to break down every ugly, uncomfortable second of it right now. Let me set the scene first, because context is everything here. The Indiana Fever came into this game without Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hull, and Tasha Harris, 3 legitimate rotation pieces sitting out with various injuries as confirmed by the team's official injury report released the day before the game. That is real. That matters. But here is what also matters. Caitlin Clark, 9 months removed from a season that was stolen from her by injury, walked into her home arena for the first time since July of 2025, and she was absolutely locked in. She went 4 of 6 from the field. She was 11 of 13 from the free throw line. According to Sports Illustrated's live coverage of the game, she finished with 21 points and was putting together one of the more efficient offensive nights you will see at any level of basketball before an injury scare forced her off the court in the third quarter. The rust? Gone. The hesitation? Gone. The Caitlin Clark who carried this franchise to the playoffs was back, crackling with energy, making plays, demanding the rock, and commanding every inch of that floor. And then she sat down for a rest. And that is when the entire evening collapsed. The Fever led 29-25 after the first quarter. The offense was moving. The crowd at Gainbridge was giving the energy that only a Caitlin Clark home return can generate, and everything felt like this was a team ready to announce itself. Then Clark went to the bench and Dallas outscored Indiana 36-17 in the second quarter alone. Let me say that number again slowly so it actually lands. 36-17. According to USA Today's live score coverage of the game, the Wings completely dismantled Indiana in that single quarter, turning a 4-point Fever lead into a 15-point halftime deficit. 1 quarter. 1 rest spell. And this team did not just lose, they were taken apart systematically like a practice squad getting run by starters. The offense died. The spacing evaporated. The ball stopped moving. And Dallas, led by Paige Buchers, punished every single second of Caitlin Clark's absence with ruthless precision. And here is where Dre's opinion enters the chat. That 36-17 quarter is not a fluke. You don't give up a 36-point quarter in professional basketball by accident. That is a structural failure. That is a roster that literally does not know how to function without one person. And while that might sound like a Caitlin Clark compliment, and it is also one of the loudest indictments of the supporting cast that we have seen in years. This is supposed to be a championship caliber team. The Fever went to Game 5 of the playoffs. They have Kelsey Mitchell on a historic $1.4 million Supermax deal, the first player in franchise history to cross the $1 million threshold in a single season, as reported by Tri-City Sports and confirmed by multiple league sources. And yet the moment their best player sits down, they cannot score 17 points in a 10-minute window of professional basketball. That is a problem that a ring can't paper over. Now let's talk about the other side of the court, because Paige Buchers did not win this game by herself. She had help. Real, functional, team-oriented help. According to Sports Illustrated's game coverage, Buchers logged 20 points, 2 rebounds, and 3 assists in just 20 minutes of action, going 4 of 6 from beyond the arc. But what stood out in her post-game comments was how she talked about her teammates, the screens, the spacing, the system creating open looks. That is what a cohesive offensive unit sounds like. While Clark was being trapped by Dallas's collapsing defense and watching her teammates freeze under pressure, Buchers was playing within a system that amplified every skill she brought to the floor. It is not a coincidence. It is what happens when an offense is built for its star and the supporting cast actually delivers. And that brings us back to those supporting cast performances, because nobody in the mainstream media wants to hold these players individually accountable. Kelsey Mitchell, the Supermax guard, the first-team all-wnba talent who was supposed to be Robin to Caitlin's Batman, finished 4 of 12 from the field and went scoreless on 3-point attempts, according to USA Today's halftime score update, which showed her with 6 points and 0 threes made on 4 attempts at the break. Sophie Cunningham, who had 13 points on efficient shooting against the Liberty just days earlier, finished the game invisible. Monique Billings, brought in for physical interior presence, provided virtually none of it. These are not anonymous players. These are players who signed up contractually and reputationally to perform alongside one of the most marketable athletes in American sports. And they showed up soft. Caitlin Clark's word, not mine. Well, actually, both of ours. But wait, before we even get to the locker room fallout and what this means for opening night, we have to stop and talk about the scariest moment of this entire evening. Because in the third quarter, Alana Smith of the Dallas Wings committed what officials reviewed and upgraded to a flagrant 1 foul, reckless closeout getting into Clark's landing space on a 3-point attempt. Clark came down hard, fell, rolled over on the floor grabbing her knee, and limped directly to the bench. The arena went dead silent. Every single person inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse understood what was at stake in that moment, because this is a player who lost nearly her entire 2025 season to a cascade of lower body injuries. This is a player who only played 13 games last season. The thought of watching her go down again before the regular season even begins was genuinely horrifying, and I am not being dramatic for content. That is just the reality of what Caitlin Clark means to this franchise. Fortunately, as confirmed by CBS Sports and multiple beat reporters covering the team, Clark's coach Stephanie White described her removal from the game as extra precaution, not an injury. Clark herself said at the podium, quote, "I just landed on my kneecap really hard." She said she feels good and was not listed on the subsequent injury report. She is expected to play in the final preseason game against the Nigerian national team on Saturday. Dre's honest take? That was too close. That was a reminder that everything this franchise is building, every preseason game, every championship conversation, every ticket sold, every jersey purchased, it all flows through one person. And that person is fragile, not because she is weak, but because every great athlete who plays physical professional sports is one bad landing away from a season-altering moment. The Fever need those supporting players to perform so that Clark is not forced into the kinds of high-leverage isolation situations that put her at greater risk. That 36-17 quarter is not just an offensive embarrassment. It is a structural health risk for their franchise player. Now let's go back to that press conference, because this is the moment that should define the next 9 days of Indiana Fever preparation. When Clark was asked about the second quarter specifically, about the bleeding of points, about the collapse, she did not hide behind injury excuses or preseason disclaimers. She gave a clinical, unflinching diagnosis of a fractured unit. She said the team was undisciplined. She said they were soft defensively. She said she did not feel like they were connected as five working together. And then she went a step further, diagnosing the offense too. Over dribbling, no flow, no rhythm. These are not the words of a player offering polite locker room diplomacy. These are the words of a competitor who watched her team embarrass themselves in her house and refused to pretend it was okay. And honestly, that takes guts. There is a version of Caitlin Clark who goes to that podium, praises her teammates, talks about building chemistry, says it's just preseason, and everyone moves on. A lot of stars take that road because it is easier and because agents whisper in ears about protecting relationships. Clark did not do that. She told the truth. She put the responsibility back on every jersey in that locker room and dared them to respond. That is leadership. Uncomfortable, confrontational, necessary leadership. And Dre Fiver is here to say that word, soft, is going to echo in that Fever facility every single day until May 9th. It better. Because here is what I want to be fair about. Because Street Hoops deals in facts even when we deal in drama. The Indiana Fever that showed up on April 30th were not the Indiana Fever that will show up on May 9th. Aaliyah Boston did not play. Lexi Hull did not play. Tasha Harris did not play. As confirmed by Yahoo Sports pregame injury report, all three were ruled out with legitimate lower body issues. And those three players changed this team fundamentally. Boston in the pick and roll is a completely different animal. She makes Clark's gravity work at maximum efficiency and gives Indiana a reliable second scorer who can punish any defense that locks in on the perimeter. Hull, shooting 47% from 3 according to her career split numbers, is exactly the floor spacer this offense needs to function when Clark draws the trap. When those three return to the lineup, this team becomes the Fever that pushed the Aces to Game 5. That is a real basketball team. But, and I need you to hear this part, none of that changes what happened in that second quarter. None of that excuses 4 of 12 shooting from your highest paid player. None of that explains 0 shots from a wing player over 14 minutes of floor time. None of that justifies 18% shooting from a field goal percentage standpoint for veterans who have been in this league long enough to know better. Injuries on your bench do not make you soft. That is a choice. That is a mentality. And Clark called it out because she knows the difference between bad roster luck and bad competitive effort, and she watched the latter happen on her home floor in front of her. People. Here is what this all means heading into May 9th on ABC, national television, opening weekend, the entire basketball world watching the rematch. Dallas just proved they are ready. Paige Buchers ran that offense with composure that looked nothing like a second-year player still finding her footing. According to Sports Illustrated, Ozzie Fudd, the #1 overall pick out of UConn, had a quiet debut with 4 points, but the fact that Buchers carried the load and the system held without leaning on their most hyped rookie, that tells you this Wings program has depth and structure. When Fudd gets comfortable, that team becomes genuinely frightening. Indiana cannot show up on May 9th and give Dallas another 36-point quarter. They cannot afford it on the scoreboard, and they cannot afford it on the narrative. Because if they lay an egg on national television while Clark is doing everything right and her teammates are doing everything wrong, that story is going to follow this franchise for months. So here is Dre's final word. Caitlin Clark has done her part. She is back. She is healthy, she is efficient, she is aggressive, she is getting to the line at a historic rate for her career, and she is holding her teammates publicly accountable when they fall short. She is being the leader this franchise paid for, drafted for, and built around. The question, the only question, is whether the players around her are going to respond to that call-out or shrink from it. Kelsey Mitchell is too talented to go 4 of 12 and be the worst plus-minus on the floor. Sophie Cunningham is too physical to disappear for 14 minutes without a single shot attempt. This roster has the talent. The question is the will. And 9 days from now, on opening night, with America watching, we are going to find out exactly which version of this Indiana Fever team shows up. I already know which version Caitlin Clark is going to bring. The only thing left to find out is whether her teammates are finally ready to meet her there. This is Street Hoops. I'm Dre Fiver. If you are tired of watching sports media protect these players instead of holding them accountable, then smash that like button right now. Let me see 10,000 likes on this video before the regular season tips off. Drop your take in the comments. Who on the Fever needs to step up the most before May 9th? Is it Mitchell? Is it the coaching staff drawing up a better offense? Is it the defensive philosophy? Tell me. I want every single opinion flooding that comment section. And if you are not subscribed yet, what are you even doing? Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because opening night is 9 days away. The rematch with Dallas is. already loaded, and Street Hoops is going to be right here giving you the unfiltered truth every single step of the way. Dre Fiverr out. Peace.